Welcome to video number, what are we now, about 14. The idea, and this one I thought I'd fit a toolbox in here, so the first thing I need to do is remove all this stuff just to clear the area a bit. So the panniers have two nuts here and a bolt through here, and then there's the seat and the carrier and the sissy bars to come off. So let's do the easy things first, which is by pushing that the right way, which is supposed to be, there we go, it's supposed to be easy. So there's one off. As you can tell, I don't do this very often. However, the second one will be a lot easier because we know how the first one worked. There's the sissy bar. Have a selection of tools put out ready so I don't have to faff around too much. The pillion seat is held on by a single screw, like so, and actually comes with a little pretty cap, which if you don't want to put the pillion seat on the bike, you have this cap included, which you can then put in the hole on the back of the mudguard to make it look nice. So let's get that out of the way. So what have we got now? They're about 1/2 inch. I have an assorted array of spanners. Let's have a look. Can't remember what it was, about 1/2 inch I think, something like that. We'll take the whole lot out. So let's do that. I think, no, far too small. Okay, so there we go. There's one. And there's two. So there's the seat bolts. And then the whole seat lifts out the way. Put that together, so now we have us. Within a couple of minutes we've got all our junk out the way. Probably won't need to move the panniers, but it's tempting. So let's have a look and see. Let's see what we've got now. Okay, so there's our toolbox, which we can worry about in a minute. So what can we see? Anything or nothing? Okay, so Stanley knife. Move the other set of spanners out of the way. Right, so there's our bracket that we're going to fit. Nice chrome one, right hand side, which is what I wanted. There are 3 short fats there with a countersink washer, so I'm assuming they go inside the toolbox. And yeah, nuts, stiff nuts to fit, so they're large washers. Okay, so what we've got, we seem to have a large bolt with a spacer, so that's obviously for a different model depending on what you happen to have, because you can see that goes there, but we won't be using that because we already have a bolt right the way through. You can just see the nut on the back, and then we've got the rather hideously produced hexagon bar with the footrest on the back. So looks to me like we'll be undoing that, and it'll slot in the gap either there or there. I'll see how it lines up on this top on the top support, because obviously it fits in there. I'm guessing it will go up against the frame, and then we'll see where it naturally sits there. So I think the first thing to do will be to have a look at the actual bracket again. Did look at this at the end of the last video. So that obviously goes there. Holding that there, that seems to go pretty much flush with that, so looks like that goes against the frame. That seems to sort of to line up with these flats here, this machine surface, when you're offering up against the flat at the top of the frame. So let's start. I think I will get this pannier out of the way, so I've got elbow room. So I'll come back in a minute. Okay, so it's a 1/2 inch. So let's try get something out from the socketry and see what we can do. Right, so there we go, that's the pannier off. It all takes like 2 minutes, so it's not sort of a bad thing, easy enough to do. I've noticed, by the way, that I'm starting to get the original sag that was in the panniers before. There's a chap somewhere on Facebook that does liners for these. I may well have to send some money to him. They are a stout spring into the internal bag area, and they hold it all straight and square, so might be worth spending that money. So back to the here and now. Let's have a look. What have we got? Okay, so that's a bolt through, that's a bolt through, that's a bolt through, that's a bolt through. So it looks like everything hangs on there. I may better just loosen everything, because it will come loose at the bottom when I undo the crash bar bolt here, or the footrest bolt rather. That will loosen that. So if I just slacken everything off, there's no nut, there's no corresponding nut on the other side of this, so that bolts into the frame, and I assume that does too. So may just be a case of undoing these, sliding the bracket in and doing them back up again. So I'll have a quick look into that and then we'll come back to the next short clip. Right, well, I've loosened off these, oops, get my finger off the lens. I've loosened off these two screws, or Allen bolts they are, dome-headed Allen bolts. But you can see in my case they're rather badly corroded because they've been on there for 20-something years and lived in a shed for the last 12 years. So I'll give them a tickle up on a wire brush and put a bit of grease on there to give them a bit of preservation. Whoops, why have we gone fuzzy? I am noticing if I take them off out the way, like that, if I put the bracket on the outside, it's halfway out of on the footrest, but if I put the bracket on the inside there, underneath it against the frame, then it seems to line up nicely behind with the bottom part of the frame. So that's obviously going to be the way to go. I've put a spanner on here and I shall tortuously unwind that a tenth of a turn at a time, or whatever I can manage with a few degrees between the disc and the mud guard. So get back to you on that one because you don't want to watch that. So what I've done is I've slackened off by just a couple of turns there, that's hardly any there, look, and this one I've slackened off all these. I haven't done the back one, I think that will flex, and this seems to be just a trim which quite happily pulls away. I noticed when I undid this, the gap at the back immediately sprung open a touch, so it was under tension, and I think that's going to be a good spot to slide the bracket in. I have undone which it fought every... Right, sorry, having social problems with the phone. The universal bracket seems to be pressing the buttons and switching it off. Yes, so I was just about to say that I have managed to undo the rear pillion footboard. That fought every last flat of turn with the spanner in between the brake caliper and the fender there. So that's now off out the way, and you can see on there, if I lay that down, we've got a welded bracket, so there's nothing we can do with that, and we have the pannier bracket. Now I think the pannier bracket I can move in or out depending on how this bracket settles, because I think there's flex in the panniers, so I'm not worried about that. So let's try this in here a moment. Right, so that's just resting pinched behind there, and you can see there is a gap at the bottom. So what I'm going to do is put the pannier bracket behind that, and then put the footrest bracket in front of it. So let me just loosely assemble that. Right, jolly good. So you can see with these bolts just one or two turns in before the corrosion stops me turning it. I've put the pannier support behind the bracket, and with it pushed in tight just by hand, where have you gone? There we go. You can see that the hexagonal slot still clips onto that large nut to stop the footboard from turning. So that's all hip and groovy. So all I've got to do now is put the 3 bolts on and put the toolbox on, and then we can start reassembling. Right, so we can see from the toolbox that it has a countersunk holes there, 1, 2, 3, and the kit comes with countersunk washers, which I'm assuming they fit rather nicely there. So that'll be 1, 2, 3 there, and comes with countersunk bolts as well. So as they're short fats, they obviously go there. Nut on the back, where have you gone? Nut on the back, look, Bob's your uncle. So let's get those in place and we'll check, make sure they don't hit the oil tank. Okay, so 3 countersink nuts, stiff nuts on the back. There don't seem to be any washers, but they're stiff nuts and the holes are quite nicely matched. So let's find a spanner that fits that. And I have here a universal set of quarter drive Allen keys. So it's probably about that. Calibrated eyeball, no, way out. Wasn't very impressive. It's better. Well, that goes through there, look at that. That bit of a nipper. Wash, rinse, repeat. There we are. So that won't come undone Newton meters, and you can see now that it's starting to come together. They don't look like they project too much. Yeah, only just, but it's there. It does clear it by about 4 or 5 millimeters at the moment, so that's good. What I'm going to do now is find those 2 little bolts, which I've now gone and put down, and give them a tickle on the wire wheel. Let me see what I've done with them. So there we are. So I'll give them a little tickle on the on this wire wheel I've got here. I'll dig that out, plug it in, give it a tickle, and then put some grease on there, or oil at least, to stop them going rusty. You can use Loctite and things, but I think if they're done up sensibly, and I'm likely to notice in checking over whether it starts to rattle and come loose, so I'm happy with that. So back in a minute. Right, so having given the bolts a bit of a rub on the wire wheel, I notice they're coming up a copper colour rather, and I suspect that's because the chrome plating is probably just a flash plating, and it's corroded through over the ages. So I've stopped doing that, but the threads are cleaner now. So what I'm going to do is give them a spot of grease just to protect them, stop them going rusty. I've got lithium 2 here, but that's, I don't know, it's the first pot of grease I had. It's only for a bolt, so I'm going to put that on there. I'm not worried about using Loctite or anything like that. I don't think that's necessary. Certainly something which, being near the oil tank, you'll be aware of all the time. So let's put that underneath there. The holes in the base plate are a lot bigger than the bolts, than these bolts that I'm putting back in. Getting a bit slippery there. Yeah, well. Right, so let's put them both in. I think that will smear about enough. I mean, there's no rust, it's only the under layer. So if I do that to there, you can see that there's loads of room there to line everything up. So they're obviously just designed to fit various models. Okay, so let's I think we'll nip those up a little bit. Okay, so that's just resting. You can see it will still, he said, still move. I'm just slacking that off a touch while I settle everything in place. There we go. I think probably do the same here. I don't like bolts being out of sight, out of mind, especially when they start going rusty. What I'll do is I'll put that on like that, so I'm happy with that, and then I'll wipe off the excess in a minute. Right, so we decided one day for my retirement I shall take all this chrome off and get it replated, and all these brackets I'll respray probably for a bit of fun, try and get it back up to being I mean, at the moment the condition of the bike is maybe 7 or 8 out of 10. You can see it's nice and shiny, but the chrome is not in particularly good condition, so I'll do it up as a retirement plaything. So let's put that back together. So line up the engine bolt. So there we are. So I'll tighten all these up now, and what I'll do is leave it slightly loose so that I can put the pannier bracket in the right place, because you can see that swivels round, so I need to get that lined up before I lock every last bit up, and then it'll just be a question of going around and retightening all these so that everything's hip and groovy again. That's it. Right, we've got the nut started. So right, well, if you'd like to talk amongst yourselves for a minute, I'll tighten this up till it's almost ready, and then fire you back up again. Righto, so what we've done then is I've tightened these back up again, made sure this one's particularly tighter because this has the crash bar on it. I've done up this till it's just movable, and these are done up tight, and I moved them around till it was in the middle of the hole of the bracket, so that's all hip and groovy now. I like that. I think it's a nice bit of bling. I might buy a Harley toolkit, one of these purpose shaped ones, and then embellish it with some decent quality tools, because it's at the side of the road when you need good quality tools, not at home here where you've got coffee and a bedtime room to sleep in at night. So let's get the panniers so I can line up this bracket, and then we can tighten up the last bolt. Okay, that's now impossible to get to. So I think what we need to do is just use that to position it. That's in the middle of that slot now, so that gives me a little bit of leeway. And I'll just do this last couple of flats. I won't give it too much force because it's quite a long spanner and it's only a footrest, so it hasn't got to be graunched up, although that's not going to go anywhere. So that's good, pleased with that. So let's get the pannier on properly now, and we can step back and have a look at it. He said, get on there, you tinker. These all seem to have nylock nuts on them, so I don't know if Harley's put them on. I don't think they did, because one of the panniers had some nuts inside with a built-on washer, so like the two together. So, but they weren't nylock or lock nuts rather. So I suspect they were the original ones. Anyway, let's get this all lined up loosely. Washer on the back. There we go. I think that was a 1/2 inch, yeah. I did have a 1/2 inch spanner here. Looks like it's going to rain. It's been threatening all day. We've had one small shower. There we go, that's got that spanner on. Okay, that's not going anywhere. I'll just nip them up because there's a lot of plastic in there. There's no point in crushing everything. So there we go. Actually do these poppers up now. I put some fat in there. You may remember from my other videos, you are watching my other videos, aren't you, that when I polished these and put some fat on, they seem to relax a little bit, although I have got this sag now, which may be as a consequence. But so there we are. So now it's just a case of putting back all the quick release stuff. Pleased with that. I think it looks nice. It's a bit more bling. We'll get the seat. I have ordered a can't remember what it's called seat. It's a recognised brand, quite very expensive, from America, but without the frills. And I should keep that for when I'm in the frame of mind to take everything off and go solo. Get in there. That does seem to have to sort of, that's difficult to get that in and keep the skirt there. So what I did last time, I think, was just screwdriver that underneath, just eased it a little bit. But that's in place now, so let's get these two bolts on. It's trying to rain. But we're nearly finished now, he said, dropping them on the floor. Right, that's that spun on. 5/8. Just snip them up. They don't need to be really tight because it's only going through the tin. Pillion, seat and screw. Make sure I haven't lost my little shiny doobery. Excellent. Just looking for my screwdriver now. She's there. Not going anywhere. Quick release sissy bar, which never seems to line up properly. There we go. That's it. And then the quick release carrier, and we're done. Just needs a little spring open. Turn that clip round. Clunk clunk. Job done, there we are. So, what do we look like? Well, you can hardly see it. But hey, it's a little bit of subtlety in there. It's a bit more bling. And I shall put in plug spanners, spare plugs for if I start getting a misfire or whatever. And then I'll get either the custom toolkit for it, or maybe make up my own with some spanners. So, worthwhile doing. Glad I've got it. I'd rather have peace of mind and get some tools. May even put the other one, which I've got, if I get a left-hand bracket, I may even do the same thing on the other side. Who knows, maybe you can keep a can of petrol in there or something, you know. So that goes on the same two brackets down the bottom, I presume, but it's just a different hand. Hopefully it will miss this exhaust pipe. But that's another story and another day. Okay, you all take care. Hope you enjoyed that.